Allow that centering breath to bring you fully present to this moment. Take that next breath and breathe deep, deep into the very center of your being. Breathe into any place in your body where you're holding tension. Just breathe right into that place. And with the breath, invite it to relax. Each breath creating more stillness. Each breath opening a space in consciousness. Each breath creating a field of awareness. And so I invite you just to take in these words. What is spirit? To begin with, it must be life. Then, because it is life, it must be love. Because, as the undifferentiated principle of life, it cannot do otherwise than tend to the fuller development of life. And the pure motive of giving greater enjoyment of life is love. Then, because it is life guided by love, it must also be light. That is to say, the primary, all-inclusive perception of boundless manifestations yet to be. Life, love, light. Then from this proceeds power, because there is no opposing force at the level of pure spirit. Therefore, life, urged forward by love, or the desire for recognition, and by light, or the pure perception of the law of the infinite possibility, must necessarily produce power, for the simple reason that under these conditions it could not stop short of action, for that would be a denial of life. And then, because spirit is life, love, light, and power, it is also peace. Again, for a very simple reason, that being the spirit of the whole, it cannot set one part in antagonism against another, for that would be to destroy its very wholeness. Next, the spirit must be beauty, because on the same principle of wholeness, it must duly proportion every part to every other part. And this is beauty. And finally, the spirit must be joy, because working on these lines, it cannot do otherwise than find pleasure in the self-expression which its works afford it, and in the contemplation of the limitlessness of the creative process by which evolution is forever evolving into something yet more excellent forever. Life, love, light, peace, power, beauty, and joy. Allowing these words to resonate allowing them to expand our consciousness. If life is present, it must be love and light, and therefore peace and power, and ultimately beauty and joy. Allow the words to drop into the stillness. The stillness at the center of your being, which resonate. Notice the opening they create. Become aware of the flavor, the sense, and the presence of each of these ideas and experiences. If the primary quality of spirit is life, then it is love and light, peace, power, beauty, and joy. Allow the one that you have the most curiosity about to come to the forefront of your consciousness. And what might it reveal to you about the infinite, about life, about you? And as we contemplate these words, we allow them to expand our consciousness. We invite them to expand our awareness. To open our hearts and our minds to this truth, that these qualities are already right where we are. These qualities are the very truth of our being, the very life that lives as us, seeking to express and experience in, through, and as our very being and very life. You are life, love, light, peace, power, beauty, and joy. Say to yourself in this stillness, I am life. I am love. I am light. I am peace. I am power. I am beauty. I am joy. So we just allow our consciousness to expand and our awareness to grow. And the sense of the presence to flood our whole being. As we become more and more aware of these qualities, embrace them, embody them. And know they are always present. And so taking another deep breath, breathing in the beauty, the joy, the presence of life itself. We breathe in the peace, the love, the breath of life itself. And we bring our awareness fully present now into this moment. As we allow the breath to move us out of this quiet space, bringing whatever insight or revelation or awareness that has come to us, bringing it now into the present moment. And so we breathe. And when you are ready, you can move your body a little bit, wiggle your shoulders and your toes, and come fully refreshed to this time together. And so the meditation music, as it slowly fades into the background, Bobby will close our meditation screen. We'll have an opportunity to come together in conversation. It's always so beautiful to revisit this work by Thomas Troward. It comes out of his book, Creative Process in the Individual. And so many times people ask, well, what do we know about this infinite reality we call spirit? What are their qualities? And they've always loved the way Troward builds this idea that if aliveness, if aliveness is the key, if aliveness is the key to that which animates all of creation, if fundamentally it is alive and intelligent, for it is the source of all creation. I love the way he rolls these ideas out. But if it's life, it must be love. That's the urge of life to become and to express. And therefore, it must also be light, because that illuminates all the possibilities. And of course, the ancient mystics said, let there be light. In the Big Bang, after the first 3 seconds or so, what exploded into existence was light, which illuminates everything so it can be seen and experienced. And then it must be peace, because it actually can't be a house divided against itself. It isn't actually the light and dark contending with each other. Darkness is simply the absence of light, and it can't really fight back. The minute you turn the light on, the darkness disappears. And so it's always at peace with itself. And therefore it must then also have the power to do all of this, to express, not to fight, not power over, not to make something happen, but simply the wisdom, the intelligence, and the power, the co-creative power to bring creation into a form and to allow that love and that life to be expressed. And when it is expressed in harmonious peace, in peace with itself, harmoniously expressed, the result is beauty. Whether that is beauty in something that we look at, or beauty in the way that we feel, or beauty in the way that we see a human being, or beauty that we see in nature, or just the beauty of the resolution of a conflict, or the beauty of a conversation that becomes very collaborative, right? And there's so many different ways that this beauty reveals itself as the outpicturing of this harmonious expression of life. And the natural experience of all of that is joy. The Buddhists call it bliss. The joy of this being in this stream, being in this aliveness, being in this beautiful outpicturing of these qualities of the one, of spirit, of the infinite reality. And so our meditation practice is forever urging us into this deeper alignment. So I notice over time, as I've worked with these qualities, that different qualities have really spoken to me at different times. As I have worked with my consciousness, as I have sought to expand my awareness of the infinite reality, as I have contemplated some of the more paradoxical spiritual truths, or just sometimes things that we run across in our spiritual growth, and we think, I have no idea how to do that, or how to be that, or really, I don't know that I experience it or see it. And then where I don't, ultimately, it always seems to me that where I go is, well, that can't really possibly be true about me. I can see it in others, I can see it in nature, but me, yeah, well, I'm not really sure about that. And so I've had to contemplate each one of these qualities, or pull it forward in support of that, or just it's been interesting to see as one has just come to the forefront. Man, you really need to be working with this, because you have some crazy ideas about, how this isn't happening. Yeah. And it's also interesting to notice which qualities seem absent, which qualities feel foreign, that maybe are still needing to be invited into consciousness. Yeah. So that's our topic for tonight. How do these qualities speak to you? Which ones maybe do you resonate with? And what does that give you? And also, which qualities seem the most challenging or distant or unavailable to you? And maybe we can talk a little bit about how there might be an opening. Yeah, and a way to engage. So this is an opportunity for you to participate. If you're here on the live stream, you can, if you're here in the Zoom room, you can raise your hand. You can put your question in the chat. Bobby will be managing the hand raising, the unmuting, the chat. If you are on YouTube, you can also put your comment or question in the chat. And we'll be monitoring that and seeing how we can respond to whatever might be there. So, Bobby, I'm going to say hello to you and see if there is a conversation we might have, a comment that is out there, a raised hand, and just say hello and thank you for being my support tonight.
You are very welcome. And right now I'm not seeing any raised hands. Nor am I seeing anything going on in the chat. There is a hand raised. Carl has a question. Carl, you can unmute yourself and dive in.
Hi, Carl. Do you need help unmuting yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Hey.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Mike Petra, thank you. This is really refreshing having this meditation. And a question I have is around the habit, around creating the habit of being in the quiet.
Yeah.
So I noticed today that I actually did that. I actually took a pause and I was working on something. I felt a bit pressed to get this thing done, like I'm pushing myself. So I took a moment and sat and did a few breaths and just relaxed. So I was wondering, you perhaps in your own practice or what you've observed over the years, how we can best do that rather than maybe just the once a day, that one
Right.
does, meditation.
Right.
And how does it help?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Carl, because so often we say, oh, yes, well, I do my spiritual practice. I meditate in the morning. But if we're distracted and we're just running all day, yeah, well, we're not practicing it throughout the day. And so that's a really great question. And it's a wonderful thing to notice. So yes, always taking a breath, no question about it. Moving your body. And I find often that if I am if I feel like I'm really not so much rushed, but if I'm really agitated, taking a walk or moving my body can be really grounding and bring me back to the stillness. Truthfully, sometimes I just have to say to myself, you need to drop the energy in your body, because when I'm pushing and rushing, the energy level gets revved up. But I can unrev it by noticing that it's revved up and then taking that breath and I just imagine it draining out of my body. I just imagine it draining. And I just release it from my body. And then that helps me become more still and quiet. I will tell you the single most important practice, which I will admit I go for long periods of time and am really good at, and I go for long periods of time when I'm really not good at it. So this is the thing I practice, because the other ones I just do. This is the one I practice. It is being bored.
Wow.
I am so serious. It is being bored. because our life is designed, our culture is designed for us to be active, to be achieving, to be going, to be doing, to be, all of those kinds of things. And we are now absolutely so effortlessly distracted. I mean, I can't tell you, sometimes I pick my phone up and I'm looking at my phone and I didn't even have a question. I didn't even have something I was looking for. I just pick it up and look at it. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll look at the weather, or I guess I'll, right.
Right.
Or we turn on the TV, or we say, oh, I'm just going to watch something, or I'm just going to do this, or I'm just, and we just distract and distract and distract and distract. And we have the other, so I used to say this to my son he couldn't wait for it to be summer. And then halfway summer was over. I'm so bored. I'm so bored. I'm so bored. And I would say, great. Well, I have many chores for you to do. Or you can have creative boredom. Just be bored enough until something shows up. And inevitably, the next thing I know, they're out doing an archaeology dig in the backyard, or they're, riding their bikes, or they're, creating massive, complex things with their Legos. So we don't know how to be bored. The other side of boredom is stillness. And so, yeah, it's the willingness to allow ourselves to be bored, to keep ourselves from distracting, which gives us that pause. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, right, I'm supposed to be breathing. Oh, wow, I could be like present in the moment. I could be enjoying whatever, sitting outside.
Contemplating towards qualities of God.
Contemplating towards qualities of God, right? Wow, I could just be at peace. What if I just turned this boredom into a moment of peace?
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we detest boredom, and so we distract, and we think there's something wrong with it. So I'm not kidding that there is, and I don't mean like being bored with your life, like you're bored with your job and you're just going through the motions. I literally mean sitting there going, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing right now. How do I get still?
Because we don't know how to be alone with ourselves anymore.
Exactly. Yes, that's Bobby. You're right on. Right. And so yes. So for me, that is a critical piece of the practice that I just never hear people talk about. And it's the first thing that happens to me when I first started meditating. I sat on my cushion. I was bored to tears. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm so bored. I could be doing so many other things, very productive and creative things. And I'm supposed to just sit here. Yeah, just sit here. So I hope that's helpful to you, Carl.
Yeah, I think it is. I just when you said in the stillness, like a moment of peace, that it's like be like a prayer for peace.
Yes.
In a sense, right?
Or it's just you're just reframing how you're holding the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not a prayer. You're not asking for anything. You are reframing the way you're holding the moment. What if this were a moment of peace instead of boredom, or instead of I can tell any second now I'm going to distract myself. Right. And for me, that there's just a like a dropping in that happens. And it's that dropping in that begins to invite us into stillness. This does not mean we're not going to think about anything. It doesn't mean we're not going to twitch, and we're not going to, do all the things, but we just keep at it. So it's a practice.
Great. Thanks, Petra.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. What a great question.
Thank you.
So what else? What else did you notice about these qualities? What revealed itself to you about these qualities? I mean, I can certainly share some of my experiences, but I don't want to ride over top of yours. So if you want to, yeah, Terry raised your hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Terry.
Hi, good to be here again. And so the curiosity that came up for me for one of them was power, which is probably not surprising for a lot of us. It's an uncomfortable word.
Yes.
But when it was framed right in the middle of all these other beautiful qualities, these aspects that I just truly love, I just heard a quiet thing that came forward. And then I realized that the power of my spirit is the expression of my spirit in action. So the peaceful quality, the light, the love, the life, the beauty and the joy, all the things that I love and embrace wholeheartedly about my spirit, that the power of my spirit, the power aspect of it is the expression, the bringing it forward in action in life.
Yes. Yes. And if you didn't have that, you would not get out of bed in the morning. You wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't be creative. You wouldn't, hug your child. You wouldn't go out and get a job or go on vacation or decide to be an artist or even decide to become spiritual. That's so beautiful. I cannot underscore that enough. And Terry, I think you're right. We, as often as spiritual beings, we are allergic to the idea of power. And we do want to somehow just have spirit magically do it for us. And we're just going to always be at peace. And sometimes we have to learn the power of our voice and the power of our no and the power of our yes and the power of our engagement, because our spirituality is embodied in life. It's engaged in life. And when we can make friends with our power. So I would recommend, if any of you have an issue with this, and of course, mostly it's women, right? So we can say that, but anybody who has an issue with this, there's a beautiful book by a man named David Hawkins, and it's called Power versus Force. And when we think of power, we are enculturated, especially as spiritual beings, we have become enculturated to feel power as power over or as forcing something to happen, forcing our will on somebody else, right? And yet, as I said, if you didn't have the power of your body, you would not be able to get out of bed. If you didn't have the power of your mind, you would not be able to creatively make a plan to build a business. If you did not have the power of your heart, you would not have the ability to love your child when you just want to strangle them. Right?
Right.
And so what an awareness.
Yeah. So for me, it's the expression
Yes.
of spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what a wonderful thing you can take now into your meditations during the week. You can do some journaling around it. Mm-hmm. How am I actually powerful? Where does my power come from? When is it I am spiritually powerful? And when am I falling into ways of being powerful that I don't really care for, that don't really serve me? When am I avoiding my power? Right? All really valuable things. When I say, like, I've worked with a quality for a period of time, right? It's in those kinds of ways. And then embracing and making friends with your spiritual co-creative power, that power to express and for spirit to be in action as you. Yeah.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so interesting, the qualities that we're like a little squirrely about, and others of them are very, they're very easy for us to accept. And then, of course, we also have to examine what we mean by them. So often when I see, when I hear people talk about love as, their favorite quality of spirit, and what I see them applying love as codependence. And so there's interesting, right? We're not talking about human love. We're talking about the love, which is the very impulse of life itself, to give of itself, to become, to express through us, and then to give everything that it is, so that creation can be alive and can express. And that's it's a slightly different idea of love than we have when we think about romantic love, or, Hallmark love, or quite frankly, even some of the spiritual ways in which we have come to learn about love. And I personally, myself, have used the quality of love to accept things in my life by loving the person, loving the experience, to accept things in my life that truthfully are unacceptable, right? There are behaviors that are unacceptable, abuse and addiction that goes out of control, that is then impacting people's lives. There are things that are unacceptable, an unwillingness to be present, or to actually keep one's word. There are lots of things that actually aren't really acceptable. And so that's where that power comes in, right? To have the power to speak, this is not okay. And to love the person without being accepting of behavior, right? So we have to come to grips with all these words, and what do they mean from a spiritual point of view?
And the power to make a different choice.
Yes. What a great power that is, right, Bobby? What a
great new cause in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Because as individuated expressions of the one, we can take these qualities and weave them in a whole bunch of different ways in our lives, so that our lives move forward as emergent evolution.
Yes, right. That's exactly right. Rather than working our life to just be like, I always want it to be peaceful and steady, and it's going to always be the same, because I never want to be worried about changing or fixing, or, dealing with anything, right? And that we call that flatlining. but to, the power to change, to decide. And what if we change from good to great? Doesn't even have to be something bad. We can have something really wonderful going on, and then still decide, I want to now move to a different place, try a different job, do a new thing. And it doesn't mean that something was bad. We just have the power to choose.
And speaking of definitions, then we have to discover the spiritual truth behind the words, and bring ourselves into alignment with the spiritual truth, and not just words that we have connotations about.
Yeah, and I think you're really right, Bobby, because sometimes I think that's a lot of the hard work, because we're enculturated with movies and books and our families and all the ways in which we use these words, and having to really explore them. So in my family, love was very conditional. You were loved if you behaved. If you were good, you were loved. If you were not good, it was not good, right? And so that's a definition of love. Love is
and who was defining good? Who
right,
was making the
all
judgment?
That, right, all that. And so to come to that spiritual, that's why it's so lovely to work with these concepts in our meditation, because we're contextualizing it in a spiritual framework, not in a relationship framework, or family, or home, or work, or really anything human, any of our human condition. When we are working with these ideas in meditation, we're really working with them in the spiritual framework, and new things can be revealed to us. And for me, I spent a lot of time, Terry, working with power in just the way that you talked about. Oh my gosh, finding the power of my voice. And I noticed that the one that I still feel kind of moves in and out of my life in a way that is not yet I'm fully embracing it, is joy. I definitely have continued, just in reading this today, I continue to be aware of that joy is a quality that I have to spend more time with. but I noticed a number of years ago that all of a sudden I was very aware of the quality of beauty. And I mean, I grew up, going to museums, and my mother was always put together, and and there was this outward sense of there's beautiful things. We traveled and we went to looked at beautiful cathedrals, and I remember kind of going, yeah, but that's all outward stuff. That's all, and it's in the eye of the beholder. Somebody blue is really beautiful, and for somebody else, red and orange are really beautiful. And so I was like, man, I don't really know. And I'm not sure that this idea of beauty always felt very perceptional and like it was about your perspective and your culture and what you were used to and that kind of things. But I really noticed in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, I'm very aware of this idea of beauty and how it has become something that I notice that I make my home in such a way that everywhere there's little moments of beauty. Wherever I sit and I look, there's something that's beautiful to me. There's a little moment of beauty. And actually my wife, she says, oh, no, you do the decorating, Christmas, and then after Christmas, you do the decorating, and then I'll just walk around and appreciate it. Because and there's something that happens, and what I noticed as I was exploring this, not everybody finds the little vignettes that I make beautiful, because they have a different definition of beauty, not a different definition of beauty. There are different things that activate the same experience, which is the experience of beauty. So it's not the form, but it's the experience that one has. And so when I was noticing that, well, when I would look at that, or my eyes would rest upon it while I was having a conversation or doing something, or just sitting, working on being bored, Carl. I'm the queen of distracting myself when I'm really busy. I noticed that when my eye rested on that, my being became more peaceful. There was nothing jarring or distracting me. There was nothing there was something about it that drew me in, peace as peace. And I began noticing that. And I began noticing that when I'm out in nature, the thing that causes me to feel peaceful in nature are the elements or the moments of the flower in front of the leaf under the tree. And there's this moment, and the beauty captures me. And how it captures me is with a feeling, everything becomes more peaceful. Everything becomes more restful. And I think, we're going to take this trip into Japan next year. We're going to take our community to Japan, for those of you who want to come. And they had that aesthetic. The whole point of their aesthetic was to create these something peaceful in the expression of beauty. And so for me, in the last 5 years, it's been all about that. And then it has to do with, am I being a beautiful person? Was that a beautiful response? Meaning what? I guess, meaning, did it create peace? Did it create connection? Did it create love? Did it bring light out? Like all those other qualities were and then it feels to me that something beautiful has happened. And so, it's been this really amazing thing, because this is the quality that's been working me. I've been working it, but it's been working me. Terry, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real short. A key word when you were speaking about the essence of the beauty aspect, I heard the word experience. And so in this human form, in this human experience that we're having, this life, each one of these 7 aspects depend on our human experiences and the ability to acknowledge a particular experience, like when you were able to have the experience of recognizing the beauty and how peaceful it felt.
Yes.
But all of these aspects, because we may have experiences around love, for example, might have been conditional. But once we have an experience, no matter how brief that experience has been of spirit love, it becomes our touch point.
Yes.
So that's just a short example of the experiences of all of these aspects.
Yes. And you say something so important, right? That's a part of the point I wanted to make, which I obviously, what you really hit it home, Terry. These are all just ideas until we work with them and become aware of how we are experiencing them. That's what makes them real. That's what makes the qualities present to us, and we presence them to the world. Otherwise, they're just words we talk about. And then we can argue about what they mean, and we can argue about which one is more important, and we can argue semantics and blah, 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 blah. But the minute that we have an experience of it and we can relate to somebody else's experience of it, there's a recognition, oh, now we're talking about a spiritual truth that we can in fact intuit and experience.
And meditation helps us metabolize our experiences.
Yes. Good. Right. And helps us contemplate these things, and we get an intuition of them, and have an intuitive knowing about them, right? We don't always have to figure it out or be able to say the words that make sense. Right? It's not an intellectual idea, because then our intuition really gets activated. All right, last comment, and then we're going to close. Brenda, I see your hand.
Good evening, Dr. Petra and community. First off, this is probably the best flowing descriptor of those qualities of spirit. I've heard them listed, but never the descriptor before. And I've been doing a lot of work lately, or for quite some time, with the issues of life and wholeness. Mm-hmm. And I had an experience in tonight's meditation that was kind of a little bit of a paradigm shift. So as you went through the list and said, let one filter up of life came up, and a lot of my imagery work with life is either the tree of life or an apple tree, mm-hmm. which is deeply rooted in my spiritual imagery. And just under 2 weeks ago, we were in a serious accident that's done some concerning damage to my body yet again. And the image of the apple tree that came up had a broken limb hanging down. And for a brief moment, I did feel that pain and isolation, and where's my support, and where's the nurturance, and how am I maintain, all of that. And then my perspective shifted into the remaining tree. When I've been calling my prayer partner in crisis, she's been very helpful in helping me get back to the absolute truth rather than my relative experience. Mm-hmm. And so the remainder of that tree was whole and vital and growing, wasn't concerned about the limb, was still sending off shoots and flowers and fruit, and was still the epitome of the life of tree.
Correct.
And mm-hmm. So I hear experience, but so much of what I'm being reminded of in my present experiences is that of perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful. Because the tree is whole, whether the branch is broken or not, the wholeness of the tree is still being expressed, right? And that is a beautiful awareness. And so what we notice is that both experience and perspective, neither one of them are form. And we insist that it has to be about the form, which is an unbroken branch. It's only whole if there is no broken branch. It's only peaceful if there's nothing going on around me to bother me. It's right. And so we get very attached to the form, and neither experience or perspective are form. They are the outpicturing the experience of and the ability to see, perceive the presence of these qualities, regardless of the form. So wonderful.
So we can change our thinking and put a new cause in motion.
Yes. So thank you everyone for your thoughts and your, and so I just invite you to just, play with this week. Go a little deeper, see what gets revealed to you as you explore these concepts. I want to thank Bobby again for being supportive of our time together. And so we'll see you next week, same time, 5 o'clock on the Zoom call and on YouTube. So thank you so much, everybody. Bye for now.